I've been a police officer in a mid-sized town for about 12 years. In that time, I've responded to just about every call imaginable. Accidents, robberies, domestic disputes, and more than my share of tragedy. But there's one night that still haunts me. A night I can't shake from my memory, no matter how hard I try. It started like any other graveyard shift. Quiet roads, dimly lit neighborhoods, and the steady buzz of radio traffic. Around 2:15 a.m., dispatch crackled with a call for a welfare check. A neighbor had reported strange noises coming from the house next door. Nothing alarming, just soft cries, maybe someone hurt or upset. I radioed back, took down the address, and headed that way. It was a modest 2-story home, tucked at the end of a quiet cul-de-sac. The yard was overgrown, mailbox rusted, curtains drawn tight. One of those places neighbors pass by without thinking twice. I parked my cruiser at the curb, radioed dispatch my location, and stepped outside. Right away, something felt off. It wasn't anything I could pinpoint immediately, just an unease in my gut as I walked up to the house. It was dead silent, not even the usual crickets or distant cars. Just pure, heavy silence. I knocked firmly on the door, announcing myself clearly. "Police, just here to check on you." "Everything okay?" No answer, just silence. After a minute, I knocked again. Still nothing. I stepped back, shining my flashlight around the windows, hoping to catch some movement inside, but the thick curtains gave nothing away. That's when I noticed the front door was slightly ajar. Not much, barely half an inch, but enough that the hairs stood up on my neck. Something about it felt deliberate, like an invitation. With my hand instinctively resting on my sidearm, I carefully pushed the door open. The air inside was cold, stale, like nobody had opened a window in weeks. My flashlight beam cut through darkness, revealing an interior that looked like it belonged in a different era. Old, floral wallpaper peeling from corners, furniture covered in dusty sheets, as if someone had been preparing to leave, or had just moved in and then abandoned everything. "Hello, police!" My voice echoed faintly down a long hallway. I took slow steps forward, the wooden floorboards creaking beneath my boots. As I moved deeper into the house, I began noticing unsettling details. Family photos hanging askew, faces scratched out violently. Crumpled letters scattered across the floor, each one scribbled with illegible handwriting, increasingly frantic as I walked further inside. And that's when I heard it. A faint, soft, crying sound. It was coming from upstairs, muffled and rhythmic, like someone sobbing into a pillow. My heart quickened. I radioed dispatch quietly. "Possible distressed person inside. Investigating now." I ascended the stairs slowly, flashlight raised. At the top, the crying grew clearer, now coming from behind a closed door at the end of a narrow hallway. My training told me to proceed carefully, but every instinct screamed to turn around and leave. The sobbing had become eerily steady, almost mechanical, looping endlessly without pause for breath. I took a deep breath, twisted the handle slowly, and eased the door open. What greeted me stopped me cold in my tracks. The room was empty except for an old rocking chair, positioned in the middle of the room, facing away from me toward a large mirror propped against the opposite wall. But the chair, it was gently rocking back and forth, as though someone invisible sat there, weeping softly. I quickly scanned every corner of the room with my flashlight. Empty. Then suddenly, the crying stopped. Silence pressed down on me, thick and suffocating. I cautiously stepped toward the mirror, my heart pounding so loudly I could hear it echoing in my ears. I was drawn to my own reflection, pale and shaken. But as I stared into the glass, something shifted behind me. The rocking chair had abruptly halted mid-swing. I spun around, flashlight pointed straight ahead. Nothing there. I was alone. Yet the chair sat perfectly still, frozen at an unnatural angle. "Is anyone here?" I called again, forcing authority into my voice. A whisper echoed from somewhere deep within the walls, barely audible but unmistakable. "They won't let me leave." I stumbled backward, nearly dropping my flashlight. The voice was close, too close, yet there was nowhere for it to have come from. Sweat trickled down my back as I radioed dispatch again, requesting immediate backup. But my radio crackled only static in return. I tried again. Nothing. The house seemed to breathe around me, groaning with sudden shifts of temperature. The door slammed shut, hard enough to shake the walls. I rushed over, pulling frantically at the knob, but it wouldn't budge. The air felt thin, the walls tighter, like the room was shrinking. Then, as quickly as it had started, everything stopped. The door clicked softly and swung open on its own. The hallway outside was now brightly lit, almost welcoming, completely unlike the dark, oppressive space I'd entered minutes earlier. I didn't hesitate. I bolted out of the room, down the stairs, and outside into the cool night air, gasping for breath. My cruiser waited patiently at the curb, radio chattering normally again. Backup arrived minutes later, and we searched every corner of that house. But it was empty. No crying, no rocking chair moving by itself, no scratched-out faces on the photos. Just an old, abandoned home with nothing inside. I tried to explain what happened, but my colleagues shrugged it off, assuming stress, exhaustion, or maybe a prank call had gotten to me. But I knew what I'd seen, what I'd heard. Later, I learned that decades earlier, the home had belonged to a quiet family who vanished suddenly, leaving everything behind without explanation. Over the years, neighbors occasionally reported hearing muffled cries or seeing lights flicker on and off, always dismissed as imagination or coincidence. I wish I could dismiss it too. I wish it didn't linger in my mind every night shift I patrol these quiet streets. Because sometimes, when it's late and the radio goes silent, I swear I can still hear the soft, rhythmic sobbing coming from somewhere far away, but just loud enough to remind me of that night. The night I answered a call I wish I never had.